Hi, good evening, friends. My name is Dr. Cyril, and I'm here to talk about the the topic of suicides in the youth in India, especially in the recent spate of heightened suicide scene related to the academic failures. Now, suicide has been actually this has been a worrisome issue for many years. So it's the second highest leading cause of death in the age group of 2024, 10 to 24 across the globe. In India, it's a problem and it's a rising problem. In 2021, we had a number which says 35 suicides per day in this age group of 10 to 24. Alarming. And you know what? Maharashtra state tops the list in suicides, especially in this age group and across as well. This quota figure is a small number, so up till until this August of or September of this year, we've got 22 suicides in quota. That's a small number as compared to what we have in the rest of the states as well. So we need to address it, and everyone is striving to address it. So we need to gather our arms together to do whatever is required. Let us first figure out what are the causes. So broadly classified, we have four causes. One is anxiety and stress in this age group, which is one physiological. At the same time, it is induced due to external environment. Physiological from a perspective that they are into the puberty stage and they are changing over gears, and there is much of testosterone, there is much of the female hormones, and they want to put up their identity in the society. So there is some flair. That is one part, but that does not cause suicides. The pathological part here is the anxiety and stress related to what triggers they are exposed to, what environment they are exposed to. In a recent study, 2022 NCRT that had done this study, they found that 81% of the students had reported stress and anxiety and attributed it to academics. The studies is a main problem. Out of which these students, 50%, almost 50%, this is 49 to be precise, said it is primarily due to studies, and 30, close to 30%, 20 to 30% said it is they feel this anxiety and stress heightened during the examination period and the results time. Something to worry about. The second is failure, and obviously the subcomponent of it is the inability to handle failure. So we will talk about this each individual point later. So along with failure comes success as well, a subtle point which we will discuss later. The third point is lifestyle. So when I factor inability as the third point, lifestyle becomes the fourth point. Let's see each of them. So when we say failure, it's not just the academic failure. It's not related only to studies. It's also failure in their personal lives, in their aspirations, which are social aspirations, personal aspirations, something related to the pubertal stage. So love, new emotions. So you have that cause as well. Failure in the environment in the house. Okay, failure of the parents and the other siblings to have an environment which is conducive for kids. Bullying, very major factor. Okay, so that is one part of failure. The academic part forms a major chunk here. So why is there an academic failure? That is because of the challenges that these people face, the kids face. That is because of disparity in the curriculum across the boards. Then there is enormity of the syllabus for these exams, competitive exams per se. There is a lack of systemic preparation. So when I say a lack, I say it with a word of caution. What it means is we are now. The system is now adopted at a stage where people have started training their students right from the age of 8th, 9th and 10th and all. So to form batches for NEET, form batches for IIT. I don't come from there. I come from a different perspective about knowledge gain, which I'll elaborate later. And there is a certain amount of lack of competencies as well. the development of these competencies had to be and have to be natural, which have not been natural because of various causes, especially the development of societies from whatever to whatever. So primarily it is, the nuclear aspect coming from the socialist environment to an individualistic environment, and so lack of cohesion among various people in the same communities. And this lack of competitiveness is also competencies is also related to the lack of knowledge. Now the lack of knowledge, when we say, we are talking about the lack of knowledge as it relates to the scholastic aptitudes, and at the same time the application of this knowledge. So there comes something related to, with the lack of knowledge, with the lack of systemic preparation and the curriculum enormity, you have the memory issues. How do you memorize so much of it and prepare for the exams and go and write an exam with so many chapters? So I had personally faced this when I was in standard 12th, I guess, and the earlier day I went into a blank state and I was just crying. A normal phenomenon for everybody. To come out is easy, but it's easier said than done. We need certain workarounds to that. So memory issues are there. Now this is again related to the teaching methods, the learning methods, the personality of the child and all that stuff. And there is a certain component of absence, or I would say lack of comprehension and critical thinking in kids. We've done studies for the past almost like 8+ years in identifying students' personalities and life skills, their aptitudes, and we found that comprehension and critical thinking are the ones which are scored very less in these kids. You have multiple reasons there, right from the language that they learn to the method in which they learn and all. It's also related to the environment that is there when the parents are raising their kids. Okay, that is the parenting techniques, the parenting styles. So critical thinking, comprehension is again related to curiosity, which is again related to like the formation of knowledge basis. And if you have a knowledge which is the base of learning, then memorization is easy. Till then you'll have to buy heart. So you can't buy heart for NEET, you can't buy heart for an IIT entrance or for any other competitive examination. So that's where you have academic challenges. The second part is the inability to handle failures. Now this stems right from maybe 2 to 3 generations ahead, or maybe much more than that. लोग क्या कहेंगे? So I remember people diverting the careers of their child. 3 Idiots is the best example, right? What will people say? You've done this thing and you want to do this, you are so brilliant at this, you're doing this thing because you like it. Even for that matter, failure, you have that question, if I fail, what will people say? What will they think about me? That is the primary reason for you or for a child to hide himself from the society after gaining a failure. So what is required is obviously that social support, that redefinition of the terms of failure, okay, and also coping mechanisms to this failure. So that is because this thing happens because they're not exposed to challenges. Parents are overprotective. Parents want to give a ready-made solution. They don't want people to, or children to, handle situations. So their problem-solving skills are compromised. They don't have coping mechanisms. And the definition of success, failure, and problem solving also is vague. So if you say problem solving, the problem in this term itself is a problem. That is the first word, problem. We have to rethink about renaming this as finding a way out of the situation. There is not a problem, it is a situation. Replacing the word problem to situation. So finding a way out of a situation, if you label this, then probably the inherent fear in addressing a problem goes away, because then there is no success or failure. You're just finding a way out, and that way out could be different for different people. So that's what we need to make sure that kids, as well parents for that matter, need to first reframe that whole sentence, problem solving. Then definition of success and failure, so it's not a uniform scale or a, one formula fits all definition. Success is different. Success is different for different personalities. Success is different for different ecosystems, right? A person who's a hugely successful person in money may not be successful in his personal life. So what is success? A person who is hugely successful in his personal life is not having money. Someone who is very famous, you've seen many famous personalities die out of mental health issues, and they have suicides. So what's success? Change that. Let's change that. There are many people who had commented, my close relatives have also talked about this. What? There is no success. Success is not something that you and I can define. Success is something that I will define for myself. And the value designation of that success parameter is what is critical. Failure, likewise, failure. You define failure as not failure in terms of losing. Okay, it's not a loss. Failure is a gain. You gain experience. The moment you do this, the value proposition changes. If you give a huge designation of value to success, like if I pass this, I will gain so many things in XYZ. That's a value. The other way around is if I fail, then the negative value increases. There's nothing left in my life. That's the immediate trigger for having suicidal thoughts. So that value designation and the definition of success, failure, and problem solving also has to be worked upon. And that happens when parents start working on it and they demonstrate it to kids. The last thing is lifestyle. So lifestyle, when we say everyone knows, now we have, mimicking of the Western culture. That's not a problem. Let's mimic it. But let us not do it for the harm of our own mind, body, and spirit. Okay. So we are harming when we are getting up late in the morning. We are harming when we are doing late nights. We are harming when we are eating junk food or packaged food. We are harming when we are eating more of animal proteins. We are harming when we are not having adequate sleep. We are harming when we have addiction to certain habits. So let us not harm ourselves. Okay, if we have a proper, I'm not saying 100% proper. It's that age where you want to revolt. Let us allow them to revolt. Let us allow them to do things differently, but with the conscious knowledge that ABC done to this extreme will harm me, if not now, in the later life. But there is a certain amount of mixing of parameters. So the more healthy your stomach is, the more healthy is your brain, the more efficient is your cognitive ability. So now how do you address this? So we have these helplines which come up with, say, you can call us. So even our organization also has a helpline, but that addresses the acute problem a person may be facing, but not the problem of the tendency to have a suicide. So it needs a root cause attention at the parent level. So we all need as a society to handhold each other as parents. First is give unconditional love. Even if there is a failure, it has to be love, and it's not supposed to be sugar coated stuff. It has to be genuine love. Okay, we need to train ourselves first in handling our own emotions. Unless we are emotionally intelligent, our kids cannot develop that habit. So there is nothing that you can teach in emotions, but you can demonstrate in emotions, the value of emotions and how do you handle emotions. Allow your kids to face situations in their life. Don't create a kavach kundal for them. It is not possible. You will never have a karna in this age. Don't want to do that. Okay. and redefine your parameters, your own and your kids' parameters. Let them bloom, give them unconditional love, but remain around them as mentors, as guides. Allow them to fall. Let the fall be such that it gives bruises, it gives certain injuries. Let them know that this type of a step or a solution gives injuries, but let them not fall to such an extent that they have a head injury and they die. Okay, so be around with them. Now, what do kids need to do? Kids need to increase their fund of knowledge for sure. And how can the knowledge increase? Only by having curiosity. So, an important element for parents is be ready to take on any questions and encourage them to ask questions on what, where, when, why, how. Whatever they see around, you ask them questions. Ask them, how do you know that tomorrow morning this time the sun would get, why is the sun getting arising in the specific direction? How does an aeroplane fly and you cannot fly? Aeroplane is so much heavier than you. Likewise, I mean, I'm just giving you some. Allow your kid to know what type of learning methods help him the most, and ask him to gather those resources. Allow him to gather those resources. Develop healthy habits. Let the kids develop healthy habits. You train them, and kids need to develop this. And these healthy habits are related to the physique, healthy habits related to the mind, and healthy habits related to the spirit, the soul. You'll say, what soul and spirit and mind? Yes, it is important. I'll give you example. There are kids these days who are not worried about their own marks, but they are worried about someone else's marks. They are worried that someone else will go beyond him or her, and they will go into depression when someone else is successful. That's another reason for you to worry. That should not happen. That comes under the spirit and the mind part. Okay, so you need to help them understand what are healthy habits, what is charity, what is loving each other, what is unconditional love. Unless you do that, they may not learn. Meditation. Okay, how can you control your negative thoughts? Likewise. And one of the most ignored aspect of education is language learning. So languages, everyone considers 50-60% mila to bhi chalta hai, no problem. Okay, it's not required in our examinations, for them. And you know what? Cognition will be best only if the person's language is up to the mark. And we forget that. And language barrier happens to be one of the important things when you do higher studies. I'm not talking about a colloquial or a regional language student going into an English medium full time study. No. I'm talking about an English medium studied student going into higher studies facing language barriers. Problem solving skills, physics problems, mathematical problems, language, comprehension. So we all need to work on this together. So Genesis, we have started working on this for years, and we want to now extend it to the coaching community, a specialized program for this, which is progressive life coaching for kids, where we have some e-modules on curiosity development. The child can do himself at his home, her home, at his or her pace, develop the concept of curiosity, and then likewise related fund of knowledge increase. Then there are certain aspects of emotional intelligence workshops related to increasing their fund of knowledge about some basic aptitudes, increasing their aptitudes about learning, aptitudes about critical thinking, problem solving, comprehension, and communication. So language comes in by default there. Then there are certain elements of correction of their mental health by giving memory assistive sessions. How do you enhance your memories? Also giving therapeutic interventions like certain medicines which are increasing their memories, increasing their calmness, decreasing their overthinking, removal of their fears. We also have a group uh, where these people are grouped according to their ages. which has parents as well, and you have a psychologist and a psychiatrist as a part of that group, so you can anytime ask any issue that you will be having. There's also a 24/7 free helpline for everyone, irrespective of people who join this program or do not join this program. So I wish that we all collectively work towards this. It's a serious problem, and let us all entangle ourselves to you know gear up for this solution. If you want any more help, do reach out to us. Thank you. All the best.